Good evening, race fans. Thank you for tuning into DRL TV. My name is Getty Buckner. I'll be joined tonight by Taylor Butcher Benjamin. And as always, it will be our pleasure to bring you live action of the DRL Truck Series. Now, for the DRL Truck Series, there's a big contrast in between the track that we visited last week and the track that we are at today. We were short track racing at Bristol Motor Speedway a week ago, but tonight we are at the 2.6 mile oval of Talladega Superspeedway. The biggest difference between last week and this week isn't just the size of the track, but it is what is underneath the hood of these trucks. Of course, I'm talking about the restrictor plate that restricts the airflow to the carburetor, which gives us incredible pack-style racing that we have the opportunity to see 4 times a year. Now, as these drivers continue to get ready for tonight's event, with just qualifying just around the corner, we bring in Taylor Butcher Benjamin, the voice of the DRL Truck Series. Now, this week, in the DRL Cup Series on Monday, Taylor, and the Grand National Series on Tuesday, you've seen firsthand what can happen when things go very well for you, or when things can go very bad for you. Of course, talking about the early incident you were involved in on Monday, and then, of course, winning last night's race. You know, how much do you control in a race like this?
Well, there's a lot of things that can go out of your control, but basically it's your decision pretty much of whether you want to ride in the back or be in the front. Because I personally like to be in the front because that paid off for me last night, but at the same time, I was in the front when I got collected in the wreck on lap 2 in the Cup race. So, I mean, there's really no safe place on this racetrack, and we're going to see a whole bunch of action tonight. Any one of these 34 starters in this truck field, literally any one of them can walk away with this race win tonight.
Yeah, and obviously the key is going to be staying away from the big one, or the big ones. Always, you know, it's always the talk of any, of any broadcast, of any casual fan, of the week of Talladega. I mean, that's the one thing that people talk about. It's kind of one of those things that it's almost appealing to a fan that watches NASCAR. As exciting as pack racing is, Taylor, fans do kind of wait on the edge of their seat, whether they're here at the track or whether they're watching at home on TV. They're always waiting for that one little slip up, which is all it takes to cause that enormous wreck that we see oftentimes anytime we come to a restrictor plate race. Tonight, with the amount of trucks that we have, which I believe is 35 in the field, 34, something like that, and also you accompany that with the fact that these trucks are, of the 3 vehicles that DRL uses, the A car, the B car, and the truck is the hardest to draft in because, and we'll highlight this several times, Taylor, when you're in the cockpit, you can't see what's in front of you. The only thing you can see is the spoiler of the truck in front of you, which allows, big opportunities for people to, miss checking up for a wreck. And, we also know that the tail ends of these trucks are very light, so one little bump that doesn't go right can spin a truck right into traffic. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong, and tonight we might see several of those things go wrong here, Taylor, and of course, that's kind of the appeal here at Talladega.
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially if the wreck happens at the very front of the field. I mean, it's very difficult because of the high amount of banking. The trucks go up and down, and it's very difficult to miss a wreck. And as far as the bump drafting, it is very difficult because these bumpers exactly correctly. And like you said, one little mistake can ruin the entire race for everybody. So these guys are really going to be patient with one another, and really the key word tonight, I think, is trust one another.
Yeah, it's hard to do because, I mean, like you said, when you talked about controlling, you can't really control who you work with most of the time, especially at the end of a race. But one thing that we see in spades almost every single time we come here, we saw it at Daytona in the Truck Series with the Bad Boys Racing team. We will see it tonight. We have a lot of big teams here in the field. We see that team-based strategy. Last night we saw S2R Racing. We saw SGK Racing drop to the back. We saw DPR Racing work together and drop to the back. And, we're going to see that here tonight as well. Cycling through the field, you saw a lot of people sitting right at the start-finish line trying to start in back. But, Taylor, I'm going to ask you this question now, and I'll ask you again. When so many people start in the back, all of a sudden, is that really the safest place to be anymore, since that's half the field?
Well, last night it proved that no, it was not the place to be. But I understand why people do it, because they just want to ride around and get to the end. But like we keep on talking about, there's no safe place on this racetrack at all. And the best way to miss the big one is to be running in front of it.
No, and I myself was caught up in a wreck early on in the race in the back of the pack, so I know firsthand. Sometimes it's not the safest place to be. But looking at right now, looking right now, Jeffrey Meyer comes into this race with a 44-point lead because Casey Drake missed last week's race rather. He is here again. He has returned this week, but looking at the points, it's still very, very tight between second, third, fourth, fifth. How big of a shakeup can we see in the points tonight? What is that kind of what Talladega does, or do you think the more experienced drivers will rise to the top?
I would not be surprised one bit if we saw a big-time shakeup. And again, if we get one of those unexpected new winners that might not have a chance like most other weekends, and they could really turn this whole playoff picture upside down if they can come away with a win tonight and lock themselves in potentially.
Yeah, there's still a lot of drivers. A lot of drivers have yet to get wins. But one driver that has already got a win this season, Taylor, and is going to be our pole sitter tonight, is Adam Ferree, the 29 truck.
Let's try to pull him into the booth if we can.
See if I can find Mr. Ferree. Minimum Speed Racing is where he is at, so we'll bring him up to the broadcast booth. Adam Ferree, do you have a copy, sir?
I do.
Well, we noted that you have your win. You got that at Las Vegas. You had a good run last week at Bristol. Tonight, what is the game plan here, buddy?
Hopefully stay out front and stay out of trouble.
That's a good plan. I like it. Say no more, buddy.
What else do you do at Talladega?
Right. Now, there's a lot of different strategies here. A lot of people will stay up front until it gets kind of, sketchy, and then they'll drop to the back. Are you committed to staying to the front tonight, or is it going to kind of, be, take it with, as the laps unfold?
I think I just have to play it by ear. I don't know. I watched some of the other races. It seems like the guys who run up front generally finish up front. I don't know if it's hard to pass or what, but so the goal is going to be stay up front all night.
All right, Adam. Well, good luck tonight, and hopefully we can talk to you at the end of this thing as a top 3 finisher. Stay out of trouble, buddy.
All right, thanks, Getty. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Now, that was Adam Ferree, Taylor, and you can see just by qualifying, we see some of our normal names up front, but outside the front row is David Wellborn. Of course, we got to give him an opportunity to welcome him back to DRL. He's been taking he took about a 2-week hiatus there because of, taking care of his wife. Right behind him there is the 19 of Marvin Wingfield, the 24 of Chris James. He is actually a Cup regular. We do have a big field here tonight full of drivers from all 3 series that we run here tonight, Taylor. So a big, Talladega is always that type of race where it brings out the most drivers. This will be probably the biggest field that we have this season, except for maybe Daytona. So, does the field size play into anything here, or is it going to be kind of whether we have 20 cars or 36, it's going to be the same story?
I think not just the size of the field, but who's in the field. There's several drivers, like you mentioned, that are only in here and for one reason only, and that's to win, because they're not in the other series, such as Chris James up here in third, and Thomas Harmon and David Wright, and amongst a lot of others. So, Ben Izinga. So, I mean, that's you know how it goes. I mean, they're gonna do whatever they can to win, and a lot of these, I see a lot of these guys up in the points starting at the back. Jeffrey Meyer, we already documented like he had planned on, but Dakota Wilkins, Jeremy Hebel, Jarrett Rogers, they're all starting in the back.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys that drop to the back with their entire team, and you know we'll see that as this race unfolds. And now one of the other unique features of Talladega, not only is it 2.6 miles long, the biggest oval that we go to, but it's also got that very, very interesting start-finish line. It's not in the middle of the tri-oval that we generally see. It's actually at the end of the tri-oval, which, you know, if you look at the finishes of these races, the leader at the middle of the tri-oval isn't always the leader at that start-finish line.
Yeah, I mean, how many races have we seen decided between that little short shoe right there? But here we go. Adam Faree's going to lead the field down. 36 of the, actually 37 of the DRL Truck Series drivers. Here we go.
Now they take about a full lap and a half here to get up to speed, so whoever's leading at this point in time is probably not going to be the leader when we get back to the start-finish line in 2.6 miles.
As they come off turn 2 for the first time, I wonder how many of these guys will kind of do what you did last night, Getty, and drop to the apron and head to the back, even though they started up front.
Yeah, and very interesting, we see Daniel Holloway, fourth truck in line. He's actually teammates with Jeffrey Meyer, and this time he is deciding to stay up front instead of drop back with his team, which is not what we saw at Daytona. Another thing that we saw at Daytona is the single car teams, like Richard Springer, he did not have the help that he needed. You know, when you're here without a teammate, is that a huge disadvantage, Taylor?
Oh, he does have Robbie Armstrong as his DPR teammate, but yeah, that's something we're going to be talking about all night long as far as teammate as leads the first lap. And he does have an extra teammate in Chris James, although he's up here at the front, riding in second.
You know, we're seeing here the main pack still very, very strong as far as the amount of drivers that are up here fighting for it, and we will highlight the back of the pack and see who has decided to drop back in this early going of this race. But right now, it is 4 trucks in line before you get to that first truck that is on the outside lane. Very, very easy to go 2x2 here all the way around, but a lot of these drivers are maybe taking it easy. As we see Holloway, he will go high and he will fall back to his teammates now.
I'm going to be watching Chris James up here in second. If you recall, on lap 14 of the Cup race, while running in second, he actually popped a motor.
Yeah,
as he was being tucked up right behind his teammate Steven Turner, and we talked to him, and he seemed very confused as to why, because his temperature in the Cup car was like 287 when it blew on him. So I wonder if it might be a little gun shy and getting that temperature too high too early.
Well, it doesn't take much here, as we just saw looking out of the windshield of Chris James, and we'll do it one more time here. You can see that from his cockpit view, from where he's sitting, you can't see anything else, and that also means, Taylor, that you can't get the air either. I mean, obviously, if you can't see over the truck, you're not going to be getting air to the engine, which the only way you can get air to the engine is through. We'll try to see if we can get a good view of it here. If we look at the 29 of Adam Faree, right on the front of his nose, that is the air intake. It is right below his grill. That's the only way you get air in these engines. So if you're tucked up behind that truck very, very tight the way he is right now, he's getting 0 air, and you can see he's trying to peek out to the right and get a little bit of air, but when you're tucked in as close as he is, I mean, it doesn't take long before your engine spikes up to 280, 290 degrees Fahrenheit.
You just see him peeking out, and you see his David Wellborn in the mirror up on the outside. If the outside lane can make a charge up there, it'd be a perfect opportunity for Chris James to hop over in that line and not only cool his engine down, but take the lead in the process.
Now, another thing that you got to keep an eye on is the pinching from that outside line. If Chris James is going to look out and try to get air to that engine, he's got to be aware of the outside line if it does ever get to him. He's not going to be able to peek out as far once that outside line reaches his truck. He's not going to be able to peek out kind of, you know, as aggressively as he is. So engine management here is as important as anything else here. And another thing that we might see if this does go green for a while, which Taylor, you mentioned before the broadcast started, last year this did go caution free at Talladega. So fuel management is also going to be key here. Right now the 29 truck of Adam Free is flat-footed. He is saving 0 gas. But the 03 of Brady Briggs, just behind the 24 Chris James, he could seriously be running 80% throttle right now, just because of the just because of the fact that those 2 trucks in front of him are cutting the air for him. So right now, Brady Briggs has probably used about a gallon less of gas so far in this race than the 29.
Well, look at the outside line get moving with David Wellborn being pushed by Mark Wingfield. I thought that would have been a perfect time, I thought, for Chris James to pull to the outside and maybe cool down, but a lot of guys are jumping up there now. And let's see if Wingfield can push Wellborn to the lead. Looks like he might. Brady Briggs hopped up there as well, and will Wellborn clear to the bottom, or will he stay with Wingfield?
Now, for the first time this season, David Wellborn leads a lap without the use of any pit strategy, and he does get down. And look at the mess behind him.
I think that down on the apron, I think he wants to get out of this mess.
We are seeing a lot of movement here from these trucks side by side, and that can be very, very dangerous. If you try to push a truck and you're not center with them, you're gonna spin them. And it looks like Furry tries to pull a block on the 03 of Brady Briggs, and it doesn't work out. He gets back in line there on that inside row.
That's someone else. I think that's Casey Drake on the bottom, drifting to the back.
Casey Drake has seen enough. Now let's kind of go to the back here and see. Let's take a roll call of people that have dropped back, and look at this. Several trucks from 26th on back all have dropped to the back. One line of trucks all right here. They're saying, you know what? It's a long race. We'll see these guys later, and that is being led by the 75 of Bill Edwards.
Yeah, right now they are 7 seconds back from the lead draft, 9 seconds back of the leader himself, and yeah, they're all single file and trying to play the smart card here as they see what's going on up front.
I apologize. That is actually the 85 that is out front of Sidarius Jackson, being pushed by Jeremy Hebel. Now, one thing, you know, if anyone's wondering, well, hey, what is going to be the deal here? Those guys are dropping so far back, they're never going to be able to catch up. One thing that we do know is if those drivers stay single file, it doesn't take much to catch a pack that is going too wide like this. They will be able to catch them, assuming that this pack up here stays 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, which it currently is. And of course, we've got the 38 of Matthew Pont. Welcome him back, as he has missed a couple races there, so he has come back for this Talladega party as Richard Springer decides to drop back.
And up front, Faree getting the push from Chris James, Terrence Sine behind the 24 James, trying to help that outside line get moving. Or look at the side draft right there by the Faree down on Wellborn. They're going to clear the top 2 have cleared the bottom lane.
Yep, and that gives the 30 of Terrence Sine an opportunity. If that top line can stay together, that'll give him an opportunity to try to move up and maybe get past the leaders. We'll see all night that the inside line, the outside line will have their own separate moments of momentum. Right now, it looks like the outside line has fizzled, and at least for the time being.
Wellborn, he's getting aggressive though. Well, look how broken up this lead group is though.
Well, we've seen several times, 4 or 5 times, that there have been drivers up in this lead pack, and they've kind of ducked out because maybe they didn't like what they were seeing, and that creates a big gap in the field, and then it takes, you know, a good quarter of a lap, a half of a lap for that line. You know, let's say if they leave that inside line, there's going to be a big hole there, and then that truck behind them has to make up that gap here, as you see the gap between the 19 of Wingfield and the 24 Chris James there. You know, that doesn't help things.
I mean, one thing, David Wellborn's not playing conservative at all. He dropped back down for a moment, but he's trying to go. He dropped back down again, but he's trying to get that outside lane moving. There he goes again. He just can't get big boost of energy, I guess.
It seems like the 30 of Terrence Sine isn't quite sucked up to him enough. But you got to find that.
Brady Briggs went with him that time. Maybe they can get something going.
Yeah, you got to find that line of, you know, trying to hop up to that top line. You can do it too soon, and you can obviously do it too late. And right there, it looks like David Wellborn and the 19 have decided to go to the outside.
Oh, Adam Fareed drifts up off the bottom a little bit.
Yeah, there is a lot of movement here. Let's ride with Brady Briggs, and you can see what he sees. Just all the movement with all these trucks side by side. It makes for a very nerve-wracking night here, especially since you can't see past the truck in front of you.
And trust me, if we're nerve-wracked, if we're nervous up in the booth, believe me, these guys are nervous down there in their cockpits. I mean, It is tense out there.
And something that I talked about on Monday's broadcast, from Brady Briggs' seat, this doesn't look so bad. It doesn't look very chaotic really at all. But as soon as we pan out here and you see all the trucks that are involved with all the movement from the front of the field all the way to the back, it looks like it's way more chaotic than it actually is. As we go back to Brady Briggs' cockpit view, you can see, I mean, it almost looks like there's no movement at all between these trucks.
Well, he had a little gap for a second there. As Wingfield, not sure what happened there with that outside lane's going to die out. David Wellborn's going to drop back. Going to be watching right in this point of the run, coming through that tri-oval. I mean, it can get really loose when you're on the inside lane coming through that tri-oval.
Yeah, as these tires heat up, the rear tires here, because of the amount of movement that they have and the amount of downforce that they have on the rear end, the rear tires here actually wear faster than the front tires, which is not what we normally see when we go to an oval. Normally we see like the right sides will wear faster than the lefts, but right now the rear tires are wearing significantly faster than the front tires here, and if you accompany that with getting hit from the rear with bump drafting, it doesn't take much. And talking about, you know, that sensation that you feel through the tri-oval, it's almost as if your truck automatically becomes 1,000 pounds lighter instantly. I guess that's the best way I can say it, Taylor. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, it really does. And here comes Chris James. He's looking on Adam Fareed. He's got his teammate David right behind him. Right now we got top 20 trucks back to Richard Springer, who's trying to hang on to that draft the best he can. Back, the top 20 are separated by just 2.2 seconds. So although there is a totally separate pack that's 10 seconds back of the leaders, it's still pretty crowded up here at the front. Oh, got a wreck.
Oh, the 16!
Brent
Oh, no!
Rob Fosnall. David Lindahl, I think, as well. Derek Pemberton. And why did the guys hang back 10 seconds back from the lead pack? That's why.
Looks like the 82 just comes down on the 16 there. We'll get another replay of that, but my goodness. We'll get one more replay if we can. We're looking at the 82.
It looked like Pemberton just tried to get down in a hole that wasn't quite there.
Yeah, the 16 came up a little bit, but the 82 came down a lot more than you're supposed to. And that's the risk that you take when you're trying to side draft or pinch a truck or, you know, obviously get into a hole that doesn't exist. As we'll watch on board one more time here.
I said Trent Helt was involved. I was actually looking at Derek Pemberton, but yeah, a lot of people. Adam Breeden got caught up in that as well. Didn't see him the first time around.
And let's ride on board with Casey Drake if we can.
Yeah, this is not what you want to see when you're second points.
It doesn't look like I'll be able to bring that to you as we are a little too far off here. But with this caution flag, DRL TV is going to... Oh, here we go. I think I've got Casey Drake here now. Yep.
Boy, look, what a great job. Stands on the brakes, lets everybody clear off from the top side down to the bottom. Fortunately, he had some room behind him, so he didn't get run into from behind if he stood on the brakes as hard as he did.
Yeah, that was a very good job by the 87 of Casey Drake. But anyway, DRL TV is going to take
we got some
What's that?
chaos on pit road here.
Well, as we get all this chaos sorted out, we are going to take a little bit of a break here. When we return, we'll get everything sorted out here, and we will be back racing in just a few minutes. This has been DRL TV. And welcome back to DRL TV, showcasing the skills of the DRL Truck Series here today at Talladega. 75 laps scheduled tonight. We are at lap 18. Many laps left to go. We did have our first caution. I wouldn't really consider that the big one. There was a lot of good wreck avoidance there, Taylor, and we still have a lot of trucks in contention. And we'll see out of the trucks that were in that first wreck, how many have enough damage where they can go forward. We saw the 82.
Derek Pemberton is out. He had enough damage.
Yeah, we
Rob
saw.
Fosnell. Yeah, a couple of these guys aren't in here for points, so they're kind of gone tonight. But David Wright and Robbie Armstrong were the only two that stayed out under this caution flag, and they're going to restart 1 and 2. They have their third teammate, Chris James right there, so perhaps for a little bit they can hook up for a little bit.
Yeah, and now these drivers have seen what happens when you drive in a pack up here. Do you think we'll see a little bit more single file racing this time around, or do you think these guys are still going to be going at it?
Well, you'd like to see him get single file and kind of ride it out, but that's not what sells tickets. If you know what I mean.
No, that is true.
Yeah, I would expect to see these guys start making some bold moves again, even though we're just on lap 18 out of 75 here.
We'll find out here in just a second as the green flag is back out. David Wright leads the field down to turn 1 here at Talladega. Again, it takes about a full lap for these guys to get fully up to speed here, so it won't...
Really surprised Robbie Armstrong didn't duck in line here. He would have... Oh, we got a blown motor in the back. Is that Jeremy Hebel? Oh, he's getting spun out too. And Casey Drake collects him. And the caution is back out. That must have been a missed shift or something on Jeremy Hebel's part. Perhaps when he went from 3rd to 4th, or tried to go from 3rd to 4th, he might accidentally went from 3rd to 2nd. But then he tried to get out of the way and was not quite clear of everyone else. He clipped the 78 truck that Tristan Anderson had spun him back into Casey Drake's path.
Actually, yeah, Casey Drake was down low. I'm not sure how much damage Casey Drake actually got there. We'll watch one more time here. We see him blow his engine. And he tries to get to the apron.
Yeah, his teammate Dakota Wilkins got in the back of him pretty hard there. What damage Dakota might have.
Casey Drake does have significant nose damage. I think he can get that repaired, and he could still have enough...
oh my goodness, I didn't see the aftermath to that. Cody Gatsky got turned and flipped about 3 or 4 times in the air. Well, that's too bad, because Cody Gatsky had a tremendous run last night in the Grand National car. He finished 4th and actually was pushing me for a little bit. But I expected him to be a factor tonight. That's too bad.
Wow, yeah, that was a very, very quick caution. We will we'll try to get this all sorted out again, and we'll return here in just a moment here for DRL TV and get all this sorted out. But as it stands right now, one of our championship favorites, one little mental error, and it took several people out of this race. That's very, very unfortunate for those guys. But we will return shortly with the second restart of this race. And welcome back to DRL TV. Just setting up our second restart of the day after a quick caution. A weird anomaly happened, and let's see if we can bring in one of our championship hopefuls here, Jeremy Hebel. Do you have a copy, sir?
Sure do.
Well, when it rains, it pours, it seems like for you. You go, you have a streak of great races, and then after an unfortunate race last week at Bristol, you come into Talladega. Kind of talk us through what happened there in that little situation.
Just really stupid error on my part. I went from third to second gear while I was trying to get up through the gears. So, yeah, that sums up my last couple of weeks.
Right. Well, you still have that win in your back pocket, and we know you won't get one here tonight because obviously the engine damage that you that you got there will take a little bit to repair. But do you still have a clean enough truck here where you can repair your damage and maybe come out and help your teammate get a second straight restrictor plate win?
I'm definitely going to try to get it fixed and see what we got. I got 30 minutes of damage to fix, so we'll see what we got when it's all said and done.
Well, Jeremy, unfortunate that happened to you. Hopefully we see you next week at Dover in a little bit of a different situation. We know Bristol and Talladega has not gone exactly how you would have wanted.
Yeah, I hope it goes better.
Well, we will see you next week at Dover. Remind me your team name again so I can get you down there.
FMS.
Thank you, Jeremy.
I will say that it does take a real man to own up to a big mistake like that,
Yeah, I know that, and that is for sure. That it's so unfortunate because that could happen to anyone. Yeah, I mean, when you're trying to get through the gears here, it takes so long to get up to speed, Taylor. It doesn't take much for you to try to get a little overzealous and maybe take so that one mental mistake there. But unfortunately here at Talladega, it doesn't just take you out of the race, it also affected a lot of other people as well.
It affected Casey Drake, although he's still on the racetrack. We'll see just how bad that truck is hurt, but it eliminated Cody Gatsky, Tristan Anderson, Greg Meyer.
And we're looking at the damage that Casey Drake has, and it's a lot. There's a lot of damage there, unfortunately. But we do have the one to go, so about half a lap before we go green here. And one thing that we always do, remind you guys that next week is Dover, as we mentioned to Jeremy. 150 laps at the Monster Mile next week. Very similar to Bristol, a track that we visited last week with a concrete surface, high bank corners. With Dover, it's almost similar to Talladega, and we'll talk about this next week, where one little mistake, and because of how skinny that track is, one little mistake, you can seriously get the big one there, too, at any given time, especially if there's an incident on the straightaways. So that'll be very, very interesting to see what happens next week at Dover. And then our next broadcast will be Monday with the Cup Series at Dover, featuring Taylor Butcher-Benjamin. I myself might be able to join the race and see what I can do with the top guys in the Dynasty Racing League. Dover always brings a great race. It's so hard to pass there. It's very, very hard to pass there. So, you see a lot of tight racing all the way around, and I can't imagine that next week will be any different, as all three of our series will be going to Dover. But as we get set here to take the green, Taylor, I've talked a lot so far, man. I know you have too.
How about we rev it up for this restart?
Let's rev it up and take a little break from our chatty chat and let these trucks do the talking. I know that's what our viewers want. I'm only here to just fill in the gaps of silence. So let's let the trucks get turned up here and see what Talladega has to offer. And a big
Save
wreck,
by David
well, a big almost wreck there, I guess you want to call
he's
that.
coming back on the track. There's the caution. Everybody missed him, but wow. I was actually just about to say, we're going to come back from the Rev It Up segment, that he and Robbie Armstrong I was kind of thinking what their strategy was, that they would try to make it to about lap 40 or so and then pit under green, but they didn't make it that far. But no damage to David Wright's truck. He did a tremendous job after you remember who it was that turned him through the tri-oval?
Terrence Sine, the 30
Terrence
truck.
Sine. But I mean, that's what we're talking about. When the leader gets spun out in the middle of the tri-oval in front of all these trucks and no one else gets involved, I mean, it's nothing short of a miracle. Fortunately, he clipped Sine's truck in a way that he could spin it down towards pit road out of harm's way.
Yeah, no, and judging by what we saw there on the replay, it just kind of looked like that was just an off-center bump. But we talked about how treacherous the tri-oval is, and it doesn't take much. We talked about, I used the analogy of it feeling like the truck is just 1,000 pounds lighter almost instantly. So very, very interesting that there's not more of a focus going through the tri-oval. We've seen these guys be very, very aggressive through the tri-oval, so I'm very, very, very surprised to see that. But Terrence Sine does take out David Wright there, and David Wright, I'm sure, isn't pleased, but he does get to drive away from that wreck, which is something that we haven't seen people do yet. Any wreck that we've had tonight has involved lots of trucks getting a lot of damage there. So even with him coming back out on the track, man, that is a very, very lucky break for David Wright, as he will be able to continue this race.
Well, what I'm seeing here, you can kind of interesting way to look at this, because David Wright, if you look at when he gets turned, he's about literally a lane off the bottom. So if you're Terrence Sine, you're thinking that lane's going to be open, but at the same time, if you look at Sine's truck, he's not quite on the yellow line either. So I mean, they just basically ran out of room there.
And we've seen the smallest of errors so far. We see one little misshift.
If Sine would have been able to get him cleanly there, David Wright would have been in trouble. He would have been drifting in the middle way to the back. I mean, I just can't get over the fact of nobody else was involved. Like, unfortunately, when he spun back up the track, it was when most of the field had already gone by him.
Man, looking here at the damage to David Wright, very, very minimal. As soon as David Wright gets off the pit road here, we will actually bring him in. And see if we can get a word with David Wright. David Wright, do you have a copy, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, this is Getty up at the DRL booth. Man, what a ride you went on. Very, very lucky that you got minimal damage there. Tell us kind of, through your eyes, kind of what happened in that incident.
From what I could tell, in the tri-oval, you have the option to pull down all the way in that bottom left lane, which has bumps in it. So I don't usually pull down that low, because when it blends back up, you got to be in the line, that first groove above it. So the 30 truck looked like he tried to go down there, and he got a little bit of a draft and got on the inside. When he tried to come back up, he just kind of caught me in the left rear and spun me around.
Well, we know that you don't normally come here in the trucks, but so far, what have you seen in that lead pack? Has it been calm, or has it been pretty much chaotic? What do you see from up there?
It's been pretty chaotic. There's been a lot of weaving for sure. So, yeah, it's been a few things. A couple times I was like, oh my goodness, but
well,
so I just kind of
are you going to be in a big hurry to get back up there, or are you going to kind of sit in the back here? You know, we do still have almost 50 laps to go.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna have to just kind of play it by ear, see what it looks like everything's going. I don't want to be too far back. There's still quite a few trucks on the lead lap, so you know, don't want to get caught way at the back with only 50 laps left. So we'll see how it goes.
Right on. Well, you have a great rest of the race. Hopefully we talk to you at the end of this thing as a top 3 finisher, David. Good luck, and we'll get you back down to your team.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a good broadcast.
Yeah, you too. Good race. That was David Wright. Man, can't get over how lucky he is to get through that.
I don't think he can believe in himself as well. But right now, Terrence Sine is getting the EOL from Race Control.
Yeah, and you know, we both saw
that.
this.
The problem with the EOL here, it's not that big of a deal because of how easily you can drive back up there.
Oh no, that's absolutely correct. Now, while we have an opportunity, I just want to reach out to the viewers here and just thank you guys so much for coming out. A lot of the viewers that we have here are loyal to the Dynasty Racing League or loyal to a driver that they watch here every week. And sometimes when we have weeks like this, you can watch your favorite driver several times in a week. If you like the broadcast or if you like that driver, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. You'll be notified on your main device anytime that the Dynasty Racing League takes DRL TV live, which is 3 times a week. Most weeks, we do have a couple bye weeks, but otherwise, man, we got all the way up until I think it's November, Taylor. A lot of racing all year here, and we just want to thank the viewers.
We're packed pretty tight. And for anybody interested if they're free on Thursday nights, we also have an Indy Racing League that right now has been kind of put on hold, perhaps trying to get some more people in here. So if you're all are interested, we're happy to have you to try run an Indy League, because that could be very exciting also.
Yep, no, and absolutely. Now, one thing we've seen here tonight, a lot of different, pit strategy here. Drivers, we've seen in this top group, we've seen, the same group of drivers. We've seen the Chris James, Brady Briggs, Terrence Sine, but with the exception of those guys, we've seen a lot of different drivers try to mix it up here in the front, and that's done through pit strategy. So it's very interesting to see how that will play out at the end of the race. I know right now they're not in their fuel window, so there's, they've got at least one more pit stop left to go. I think 30 would be the safe number here. I know the A cars were getting about 28, 29 miles on a tank of gas. The B cars were getting a little bit more. So right around that 30, 35 mark is when I anticipate people. That'll be when pit road just about shuts down here on these cautions.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when these guys come down, because there's no point in stretching it, because there's no way in the world they can make it from here. So.
No,
like we talked
absolutely.
about, you got pit with a group of drivers, because if you pit by yourself, you're going to be out to lunch when you come back on the racetrack and be caught out without a drafting partner.
Yeah, speaking about pitting under green, yeah, absolutely. We saw that with Richard Springer at Daytona, who led a lot of that race. It was a very strong truck, but he had to pit by himself, which put him out of contention immediately, and he never did get that caution later on to bring him back, even with the field. So you have to have, if you don't have a team, you have to at least be on board with 2 or 3 other drivers as far as pitting. And we mentioned if you're lucky enough to be the leader for a majority of a fuel run, you have to understand that you're gonna have to pit 2 or 3 laps before everyone else, because you're not able to save any fuel when you're out front.
The field is coming off of turn 4 right now. The lights are off to pace. Adam Free has chosen the inside lane. Sidarius Jackson up on the outside in row 2 after starting dead last. And remember how great of a run he was having last night until he got taken out in a wreck. But he knows how to negotiate the draft at Talladega. Remember, he finished 2nd in this truck race last year.
Yeah, and we highlighted Sidarius Jackson it seems like just a few laps ago, and he was all the way back in 20th, several seconds behind the leader, and here he is up to 4th. Adam Free brings him down. The green flag is out as these trucks get back up to speed here. Hopefully we can get up to speed here without too much mayhem, as the 3 of Robbie Armstrong, our defending truck champion, gets inside the 29, or gets behind the 29 rather. Sideris Jackson decides to get inside and let Chris James push him around.
Let's see if Robbie can maybe get a run on this 29 Free. He has a teammate behind him, directly behind him, and Springer, there they go. Chris James, their 3rd teammate, is following them as well.
And what this is going to do, and look at that gap between the 85 and the 7 of Dustin Eichert. If this outside line gets a run, all 4 trucks could possibly clear that inside row before the 7 can get back and help the 85 and the 29.
Well, we know how badly Robbie Armstrong wants to win the Dynasty Racing League truck race. Of course, he's our defending champion, but did go winless. He's going to lead that lap with Richard Springer tucked up right behind him.
And Springer...
How special would it be for him to get that win tonight?
Yeah, Springer's able to get down, but Chris James and Brady Briggs are kind of left out to hang here as Robbie Armstrong
goes up and picks them up.
And that inside line has now formed back up, with the outside line only 3 trucks strong right now. So all of a sudden they go from having the advantage to being at a huge disadvantage.
It's going to be that way the whole rest of the race, as Springer, he's clear, well, not quite clear. The outside lane beginning to form again.
But talking about Jeremy Hebel, who's had a rough few races, Richard Springer certainly in that boat as well. He will get that lap led, I believe.
Oh, no, he didn't. Robbie Armstrong got him by 15 thousandths. And the 2 teammates of Springer cleared to the bottom right in front of him.
That leaves Brady Briggs, David Wellborn, and the 57 of Jordan Berry. And Matthew Pont behind him on that outside line. Again, that outside line hasn't quite fully formed just yet. Marvin Wingfield looks like he's going to try to maybe get out there at some point. He was kind of looking there for a second. Let's ride on board with Marvin Wingfield. And you see there, it almost looked like Sideris Jackson wanted to go up there, but Marvin Wingfield filled that spot first. And Sideris Jackson, who started 4th on that last restart, all of a sudden is back to 10th. So it doesn't take long to fall back. As we'll also see, it doesn't take very long to get those spots back either.
Not at all. Not quite sure why it says we're under caution on the graphics there, but yeah, these both lines begin to form up pretty well. Those 5 on the outside can make a big charge. So as long as they stay together. Right now, we haven't seen anybody have any issues with overheat, which is a good sign. Of course, the only engine problem we saw was driver error on Jeremy Hebel's part.
Yeah, over revs. Well, one thing I mentioned a few times, it doesn't take long to put heat into these engines, but with the low amount of tape that are on these fixed setups, it also doesn't take very long to cool it down either. So if you're an experienced driver and you understand how to manipulate that air, you can stay, and we've seen Chris James do a great job of that, you can stay behind a truck and keep your engine relatively cool. If you can.
The run, David Wellborn's giving Brady Briggs. See if he can lead this lap. I believe he does, yes.
And we'll see also what happens when these trucks come up on some lap traffic here, which we have not seen yet today.
Briggs dropped down right in front of Armstrong and left Wellborn out there.
And Casey Drake is able to get out of the way. He does clear onto the apron. Heartbreaking run for Casey Drake, who had that great near miss on that first caution. Just couldn't miss it on that next one with Jeremy Hewell. And another driver that we see up here, with the exception of Cody Gatsky, we're talking about drivers that could absolutely use a win right now, is the 88 of David Lindahl.
Robbie Armstrong.
Jordan Berry decides to go high.
Yeah, Jordan Berry's going to get caught 3 wide up top, and he's dropped back. Armstrong, he's clear to the bottom. Oh, contact between Wellborn and Briggs. They keep it straight.
And I know we've talked about it a few times, and David Wright, who we interviewed just a little bit ago.
Boy. Wellborn, he's getting beat around a little bit here. Matthew Pont went on the outside of him, and he's going to get hung out to the top. Yeah,
it looks like Wellborn might have been a little indecisive there, and it could almost cost him a race truck. But he does get it back under control here, and is being pushed by the 19 of Wingfield, the 85 of Sidarius Jackson. Matthew Pont gets the short end of that deal as he slides back from being the second on that outside line to being fifth on that outside line after Richard Springer comes up to join that outside party here. And Wellborn will clear these guys easily.
Well, at this point, Wellborn's shown that he's very content with having Mark Wingfield push him, because he didn't drop down to the bottom like I thought he might have, and Wingfield's been pushing him the whole race, so I would think at this point he's pretty confident with what Wingfield is doing for him.
Well, Marvin Wingfield, William Wingfield are part of Back Porch Racing, and it looks like David Wellborn normally kind of hangs out in their chat, so that might be a
might be an alliance there.
Yeah, a little bit of an alliance here. But with Wingfield pushing him very, very hard there, Wingfield eventually has got to get some areas. You see him peaking. So David Wellborn might like Marvin Wingfield pushing him, but at some point Marvin Wingfield might need to, he might decide that he doesn't really want to push anymore and try to get some of that clean air.
Well, we're coming up on about 35, 36 to go, and in about another couple of laps or so, the pit window will be open to make it the rest of the way. Will we see anybody hit this early, or will they just run it out?
I would be surprised if people did short pit here, just because the opportunity at any given moment for a caution to come out. We've seen this top group be very, very aggressive. And I do apologize to any of the viewers, if the driver that you're watching has kind of dropped to the back. We haven't been really giving a lot of attention to the guys that drop back, but the racing up here has been absolutely outstanding. And if this calms down a little bit, we'll certainly focus on those drivers that are more in the back of the pack here. But and until they're not too wide, eight trucks deep.
I'll bring up that pit strategy because last night we saw it not work for some others, but we did see it work for Mike Lemon, at least for a little bit, as the caution came out right before I and the rest of the leaders were scheduled to make our last pit stop, and that gave him the race lead in the late stages, although got taken out, got caught up in a late race wreck, but that certainly put him up in a position. So I wonder what these guys might be thinking about as far as their strategy. Oh, Wellborn! Turn into the outside wall. He's going to collect a couple of them. Darren Sine.
And we were riding on board with Marvin Wingfield at that exact moment.
Late hit. Back there in the back.
And we saw Wingfield, as I mentioned earlier. As I mentioned earlier, Wingfield was trying to get that air. There comes a point in time where at some point he can't really push as aggressively anymore. He was trying to get that air, and while he was doing that, he did not hit David Wellborn straight, and Wingfield spins the 96, and the 96 collects several others here, as we will get a replay of that.
And David wasn't quite so fortunate this time, as first he got hit in the right front, and then when he went through the grass, that truck just caught when he went across that little road there and shot him back up the track, hit the wall even harder, and popped his motor, and his night is over. or just how quickly things can change here at Talladega.
And Terrence Sine turns right down in the 42. Jordan Berry gets involved.
Man, what a shame that is for David Wellborn.
But other trucks that are kind of, not minding these cautions, that back group that involves the S2R trucks that have Bill Edwards, Matthew Pont, and we also see Jeffrey Meyer still hanging in the back of that pack. So,
and here it's paying off for him so far.
But heartbreaking.
At this point, if everybody pits, I believe they should be able to make it the rest of the way. And maybe that's, to your point, Getty, maybe that's why people don't short pit, is because we could have a caution like that at any given.
Yeah, at any given time. I mean, that was technically teammates, because Marvin and David, I know they had a slight alliance there, and very, very innocent, that contact between the two of them. Obviously, that was not a malicious act, or of anything like that. But let's see if we can get David Wellborn into the booth here and kind of talk about what happened there. David Wellborn, you got a copy, sir?
Yeah, brother, I got you.
Well, you had a great run. We saw you very, very aggressive, but it wasn't your aggression that ended up taking you out of the race. It was actually a teammate just trying to get some air. It didn't quite hit you in the way that you need to, and you go spinning around. Kind of walk us through that incident if you can.
Well, I tried to save it, to be honest with you, and it was just too much to handle for me. But yeah, we were working. My goal here tonight was to win. I mean, that's the only thing I come in here to do, was to win this race tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we also, we know that you missed last week at Bristol, and we'd love the opportunity to welcome you back here. I know anytime we go to restrictor plate racing, you are one of the more vocal people about how excited you are about restrictor plate racing. It's always a great opportunity for you to come out and get that win, and you had a great run going. Very heartbreaking what we saw there between you and Marvin. Do you have enough damage for that to be your race, or can you get back out there?
Well, I'm still being towed. I got like a minute and 30 seconds left to tow, but I'm pretty sure that I'm probably done for the night. I took a pretty good hard hit. Truck doesn't really look that bad, to be honest with you, but it said I had fluid leaking, and that's never a good sign.
No, that is never a good sign. Well, David, we got you up here in the booth again. Just wanted to thank you for all your contributions here for DRL TV. We normally see you on Tuesdays, and certainly want to welcome you back from your hardship, and hopefully we see you a little bit more going forward, buddy.
I don't know about that. The wife may get out of the hospital tomorrow. As soon as my race is officially over, I'm headed back there now. But she's looking at about 2 months of traveling back and forth every day for IVs, and it's going to be at least 3 months before she's ever actually able to walk on her own. So I don't know how much broadcasting or racing I'm going to get to do, because she's going to be my full-time job now.
Well, iRacing, as amazing as it is, real life always does come first. But, before we go, man, this is an opportunity that I don't get very often. David, how about you give us a few of your shout-outs?
Well, I want to thank Back Porch Racing for one. They worked with me a lot coming up so far, and Marvin was really working really hard tonight, keeping me up front. I want to give a big shout out to every driver, Hebel, every one of them. They think staying out's a bad thing. Hey, guess what? I only got 10 minutes to repair. I might be back in this thing. But another shout out I like to give out is to all the people who have diabetes, man. That shit ain't no joke. Oh, sorry. That ain't no joke. You got to take care of it. If you don't take care of it, you're going to end up where my wife's at, and it's not a good thing. So if you got diabetes, please stay on top of it. And a big shout out to you and the broadcasters, all the broadcasters. And I want to thank the gentlemen that come in last night and covered for me. I didn't get all their names because one of them was really low, but they did an excellent job last night covering for me. And that's pretty much it, man. That's all my shout outs I want to get out this evening. But as soon as this required repairs is done, I'm going to try to get back out there and salvage some points at least.
Well, David, it's always a pleasure. Glad that we had the opportunity to talk to you. Of course, under these circumstances, not exactly how we wanted to speak, but you went out there.
I wanted to win this thing. I wanted to win it for my wife. I really did. I told her I was going to win it for her, and I did all the aggressive driving I could do to stay up front, and that little pit stop maneuver I had where I got too far to the left really messed me up. But
well, it wasn't for lack of.
I probably would have been all right.
It wasn't for a lack of effort. You went out there, and we saw some great driving from you and the rest of these drivers here in the DRL Cup Series, David. So, again, not the circumstances in which we wanted to speak, but you went out there and you put on a hell of a show.
I got Daytona coming, so y'all wait for me to be back there. I'm going to win that one.
10-4, David. We'll mark your words there, I guess.
I almost had the pole tonight. Did you see that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great run. Like I said, I know you are one of the more vocal drivers as far as being excited for restricted plate racing. You got 2 more opportunities after this, my man, so hopefully we can get you into victory lane before the end of this thing.
I probably don't have about 300 laps here at Talladega in my lifetime, so.
Well, you put on a show that certainly...
I should say 300,000.
Awesome. Well, David, you have a good rest of the race here. Try to salvage what you can, and then we'll see you when we see you, buddy. Good luck to you, and we wish you and your family, your wife, a speedy recovery.
All right, gentlemen, y'all have a great broadcast. 6 minutes to go, and I'll be back out there.
Right on, bud.
Yep.
That was David Wellborn. It doesn't take much here. That one little slip up between he and Marvin, who we had noted had been working together very well the last probably 10 laps there, and Marvin does get that EOL, so he will be going to the back, and
that was after winning the race off pit road as well, but that's going to be off or not, as he does get that penalty. Sidarius Jackson's going to be the new leader with Matthew Pont on his outside.
Yeah, and we saw at the beginning of the last restart, we saw the outside line almost immediately fizzle out. It was almost completely single file all the way around this track. That lasted about another half a lap before we saw all the action unfold there. 45 to 75, there's still a lot of miles left. It doesn't sound like a lot when you say, there's 30 laps to go, but everyone should be in their fuel window now, so the gloves are off. How soon before we see these guys in the back, like the Trent Heltz, Jeffrey Myers, how soon until we see them try to get up through this field?
That was going to be my question for you, actually, Getty. I was just about to bring that up to you. How much longer are these guys going to hang back there, or will they, now that they know they don't have to pit again unless they get damaged, if they're going to come charging right away now? I'll
tell you this, and the viewers, whoever's watching this, you can quote me. This is not our last caution. No. This is not going to be the last time that we're pacing here at Talladega. The trucks, and it's not because of the drivers, Taylor. It's these trucks are so, I guess the best word, and it's not a professional word, they're so sketchy. It's so hard to push here consistently. We see even the best drivers that we have is, wiggling around all over the place because they can't see.
I'd say my non-professional word would be finicky.
Finicky, sketchy. The one thing they aren't is smooth and balanced. I know that much.
Yeah, they're not as stable as the drivers would like, as we get the green flag with 30 laps to go.
Brady Briggs, very aggressive, trying to get Sidarius clear of that outside line, which consists of Dakota Wilkins, who is the last time we visited a restricted plate race, Dakota Wilkins led 1 lap. That was the last one.
The one that counted the most. If we had documented when his teammate Jeremy Hebel blew up on that restart, he was right behind Hebel. He actually made contact with him in the back end, but he doesn't have hardly that much damage on his front end, so he looks like he's going to be good to go here.
Now, a couple drivers that we talked about being mainstays up here at the front. Matthew Pont joins us back in the top 5. David Lindahl this is the furthest up that he's been all day. If you look behind him, though, you've got the 3, the 24, and the 21. They kind of weren't in that main pack there before.
There they go.
And
all 3 of them up to the top side.
And they're going to try that outside line.
Yeah, Robbie Armstrong actually slid through his pit box on the pit stop. Kind of put him back there, fortunately, where his teammates were running, and they're hooked up and looking to go to the front. Here they come up the outside of Wilkins.
Now this is going to be a big thing for those guys that are in the back of the pack. Does that third line exist here? Because that is it's the fastest way around as far as overall speed. You don't have to check up as much when you're up near the wall, and if that line can work, we're going to see someone else use that line. So you know that those teammates that have been hanging in the back most of the race, and we haven't even highlighted yet. We're going to see that line used later if this works.
I mean, the only problem is if you're up there on that third line, if they start wrecking down there, there's not much chance to miss it.
No, absolutely not. But we're seeing some new names towards the front here that we're kind of hanging out in the back. We see the Daniel Holloways, the PJ O'Learys, the Jeffrey Myers. They're starting to kind of get up here, and we're also seeing that outside line, because they weren't really able to stay together all that well, the outside line kind of fizzles out here.
Fizzled out.
Another unprofessional word we like to use very often, fizzled out. But Matthew Pont has pushed Brady Briggs to the lead, and if Matthew Pont can get a good push from the 29 here, he will be leading this race. I believe that would be his first lap sled of the season, as Adam Furry doing all that he can to get that 38 up front. And because that third outside line didn't work, they have come and joined that middle group, and that's actually going to help out Matthew Pont and Adam Furry. The inside line, 5 trucks strong. Outside line, 6 trucks strong. 7 trucks strong now.
Well, the answer to our question, the whole entire trucks that are on the lead lap, 23 of them, they're within 2.5 seconds. So some of them are still hanging, in the back of the lead lap trucks, but they're not dropping way off like we saw earlier.
Well, Matthew Pont goes from being almost hung out to dry here to actually being a beneficiary. The outside line does fizzle out because of this, but Adam Furry now is the odd man out as he got pushed out of line.
And he's dropping way back.
Oh! Pont! Sideways!
Oh, they're wrecking. Robbie Armstrong.
Oh, Dakota Wilkins involved. Furry involved.
Late. Well, like we said, Getty, there's no safe place on this racetrack. Last night it was mainly towards the back. Tonight, it's been the majority of it's been at the front.
Now let's try to get one more look at this. We see Matthew Pont leading that middle group here. He's getting pushed by Robbie Armstrong, and it looks like. It
had to do with Brady Briggs coming up and try to protect that run Matthew Pont was getting. Yeah, Matthew Pont actually touched the right rear of Brady Briggs. He might have backed off a little bit, and Robbie Armstrong in turn got in the back of him and set that deal off.
Yeah, Brady Briggs
Dustin Eichert got turned head on in the wall.
Yeah, Brady Briggs comes up to block Matthew Pont. Oh, Chris James with a lot of damage. The 19 gets some damage.
Wilkins.
Oh, you know who didn't get damage? Who is that? Who is that? Oh my goodness, we have to watch that one. Who in the heck was that? Someone carved right through this field. I can't see who it was. It was someone near the back. They just drove right through this thing.
Was that Marvin Wingfield? Looked like he kind of had some netcoat contact, but I see him, he looks pretty unscathed.
Vanderkoy. I believe that was Vanderkoy. I have to get this. That was absolutely incredible. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but my goodness. Let's try that one more time. I believe that was Matt Vanderkoy.
Oh, wow.
We're going to ride on board with Matt Vanderkoy.
Pont, nearly hit Dustin Eichert. That was an incredible job.
And if you're Matt Vanderkoy, right there, and right there, and right there, and there, that is 4 opportunities for you to wet your pants. And I'm sure he did. Man, we've seen that from Matt Vanderkoy. We saw that at the Milwaukee
Milwaukee
Mile.
3 spins where he didn't hit anything.
That man has a 4-leaf clover somewhere in his vicinity. What an absolute
he had some left
masterful.
front damage from something earlier, but yeah. Actually, he got it from right there. See where he gets this left front damage from. What he actually... Oh, he actually touches Matthew Pond a little bit, but yeah, he should have had the whole front end knocked completely off. But yeah, what a terrific job he did.
Well, and one person
he's up into 7th place because of it.
One person who's going to be very, very disappointed here, and let's see if we can get an interview with him. Matthew Pont, do you have a copy, sir?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you've been up front for most of this race here. Talladega, after we don't see you for a couple weeks, you come back for Talladega. You're doing everything right, and walk us through that last incident there.
Yeah, we had a huge run coming on the top side. Finally, people started pushing, and literally was just flying by them, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I felt like I was going at least 10 miles an hour faster. Just a terrible block attempt.
Yeah, that's what it looked like from my perspective. Briggs came up maybe not at the most opportune time, and he ended up touching the right rear of him because of that move he made, and backed off, and Robbie Armstrong got into you.
Well,
Yeah, there won't nothing you can do there.
Matt, we talked at the top of the broadcast, like how much of this race can you control, your own destiny here, and even in that situation, not much you can do. Do you have damage, enough damage to, basically end your hopes here of winning tonight?
Yeah, it's pretty much over. I already lost a lap here. Everybody checked up so bad, and then got about 3 more minutes of repair. So I'm gonna see what I can do, but definitely not gonna win.
Well, Matt, we know you've kind of been you took the last couple races off. Is it possible that we see you going forward a little bit more regularly?
Oh yeah, I'm back full time now. Had some family issues I had to deal with, and I'm back.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you back, Matt, and I mean that most sincerely. Unfortunately, tonight doesn't quite pan out. Obviously, not of your own doing, but you showed that you have some cojones here tonight. You made some great moves to get up to the front. And hopefully we see you next week at Dover.
Oh, I'll be back. Yeah, it's fun's plate racing.
Yeah, right. Well, get that damage fixed. Hopefully we see you back in this race, and if not, we'll see you next week at Dover.
All right, sounds good. Thank y'all.
That was Matthew Punch. Certainly disappointed. Just a disappointed driver. I hate pulling drivers in the middle of the race because it's normally not for good stuff, but, tonight especially, that was an interesting attempt there by the 03. Maybe he wasn't aware of the head of steam that those guys had, because the outside line hadn't had that big of a run all night long, and all of a sudden they get a huge run. Brady Briggs tries to come up and do that Joey Logano maneuvering where he kind of tries to just control the field, bouncing from line to line. It did not work out, though.
Well, it worked out for Briggs, but he's still up here in the lead. But yeah, it definitely caused a lot of commotion behind him.
Well, and it's interesting. He could get the EOL here, which I believe he is.
Yes,
it looks
he
like he's
is.
pulling
He
off.
just did.
But
That'll make David Lindahl the race leader.
Yeah, no, very unfortunate here for everyone, including Brady Briggs, because now because of that, he's got to work his way from the back, which again isn't impossible, but we are starting to get to that point where we're running out of laps here, and if we get a couple cautions here, all of a sudden this race is going to be almost over. So very unfortunate for everyone involved, but looking at the top of this the standings here, we've got David Lindahl, Richard Springer, P.J. O'Leary, names that we haven't seen up front yet. Daniel Holloway, Marvin Wingfield has worked his way back into the top 5. Jarrett Rogers, a name that we haven't said tonight. All these drivers that are in the top 10, Ben Izinga, Bill Edwards, Thomas Harmon, Trent Helt, and all those names I just mentioned are part of one team. So it's going to start getting very, very interesting as some of the drivers that elected to stay in the back for most of this race, they're going to come up here and join the party. So very, very interesting times here ahead. We are going to take a quick 60-second break here, Taylor. Viewers, DRL TV will be back for the start of this race. Lap 53 of 75 in the books. Just a few more to go. And this is DRL TV returning now. Lap 74 or lap 54 of 75. Just about 20 laps to go here. Fuel not going to be an option anymore. The only thing that's going to be an option now, or an issue now, is going to be track position and guys trying to get back up front as soon as they possibly can. Because again, Taylor, say it for me, buddy.
Oh, like you said, this will not be our last caution flag.
Right now, you're not going to be racing as if there's 20 to go. You're going to be racing as if, this is your last opportunity.
There's 5 to go.
Because we might get 5 green flag, laps here. Hopefully that's not the case, but you never know. But you know what? I tell you what, I'm feeling generous. Let's do one more rev it up, huh? What do you think?
Yeah, let's try it again.
We'll do one more rev it up here. Let these trucks do some singing for us, and yeah, let's watch some action.
Up here.
And just inside 20 to go here, Taylor. Things are starting to heat up. The S2R boys have decided to join this front pack, as has our points leader, Jeffrey Meyer.
It's a different story for our race leader right now, Richard Springer. His friends are pretty much going to be wherever he can find some, because all of his teammates, Chris James, Dave Wright, Robbie Armstrong, they've all been taken out. So he's pretty much on his own. Although he's looking good with the pole push with David Lindahl. We saw Lindahl get a little bit loose in the trioval like we had documented earlier. Outside lane to get pushed.
Well, with the different pit strategy that we have, Taylor, and that's a good point that you bring up. Some guys are on fresher tires than others, which means later on in this run, if we get a decent run, some guys are going to have some handling issues, whereas some guys are going to be able to maneuver a lot better. So that's a very, very good observation.
And look at Marvin Winkfield up here, back up here after getting the EOL. He's second on the outside line, trying to push Daniel Holloway to the lead.
Well, speaking of EOL, look at Brady Briggs already trying to find his way inside the top 10.
Well, here's Lindahl. He had enough of a space there to move to the outside, and he's going to retake the lead. A little bump from O'Leary in the trial. Well, that got Springer a little out of shape. A lot of guys check up. They're almost 3 or 4 wide back there. And now Winkfield's going to get caught up way up at the top side.
Now we saw Brady Briggs try that maneuver, but the outside line wasn't, there wasn't that big of a mile-an-hour difference between the inside and outside lines that time. So David Lindahl actually did exactly what he wanted to do, stop the momentum of that outside line while also maintaining the lead. We're going to see a lot more blocking here in the closing laps. Incredible run by these guys, and look at all of these drivers. This is the tightest racing we've seen all night here, and we still, we're not even inside 10 to go yet, and you can already feel the anxiety in the air here.
Yeah, the intensity is definitely gone as Springer goes back to the lead, and now the 2 Bad Boy Racing teammates are hooked up close to the
Yeah, Daniel Holloway, Jeffrey Meyer for Bad Boy Racing, the 26 and the 50. The first time we're really seeing these guys push for the lead.
This is deja vu of Daytona, how they rode at the back with the majority of that race and then are up front when it counted. They've got Ben Izinga from S2R behind them.
Yeah, Ben Izinga, Trent Helt, and some of those other S2R guys behind. Again, we spoke at the top of the hour. Some of these bigger teams, this might be their opportunity to shine here, as I believe those are S2R's 5 trucks strong tonight because of the different drivers that have joined from other series.
Well, look at all this movement. By the way, by 9,000ths of a second.
And these guys with 15 to go, they still have to be mindful of their engine temps. Right now we're seeing the most pushing that we've seen all night, all through the field.
And they have to have these pushes be absolutely square or else... Oh wow, Holloway drops at the bottom. Perhaps maybe giving his teammate Meyer a chance to cool his motor down a little bit. And now Meyer is going to get a push from Izinga and Briggs. Can our point leader lead a lap for the first time? Yes, he does. Izinga's working that bumper, though. Meyer drops down low.
So now the Bad Boys teammates have hooked back together. Ben Izinga is up here. He's up here kind of on his own. A little bit of movement there from Brady Briggs. Looked like he was maybe trying to go 3 wide, but just mentioning Ben Izinga, who, again, driving for S2R, he's up here, but right now he's not with his team. His team is still well behind.
Yeah, Trent Helt and Thomas Harmon and Bill Edwards, they're back here 10th, 11th, 12th in that vicinity. So, right now, if Izinga, he's getting a good push though from Briggs. So we got 14 to go this time.
The outside line has lost a little bit of its gusto here, but I imagine with Trent Helt joining the party, and it looks like Matt Vanderkoy also trying to get back up there on the outside, it won't be long before these trucks are 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, and here it is. As I say that, here comes that outside line getting pushed with Ben Izinga getting pushed by Brady Briggs, Jarrett Rogers.
Meyer moved up the track a little bit.
We got some lap trucks that will... Oh, no, those lap trucks separate.
They're catching them in a really difficult spot. They negotiate through it, though.
Yeah, normally you want the lap trucks to go... Yeah, normally you want the lap trucks to either stay high or stay low, not both. Ben Izinga does drop down and leaves Brady Briggs kind of out here to drive. That outside line is going to fizzle quick. They have to regroup. Brady Briggs is going to lose some spots.
What do you do here if you're Richard Spring, per se? Without a teammate, he knows he's got 2 teammates hooked up in front of him. Does he follow that? Oh, Meyer gets a little bit of a rough bump there from Holloway. This is what we're talking about. These bumps are going to be harder, and if they're not square, they're going to cause a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you, to answer your question, Richard Springer right now, he's going to have to make his own luck. He does not, and similar to Jarrett Rogers in the 9, Brady Briggs in the 03, right now they don't have teammates. So it's kind of, you have to work with what you got here, and if you got nothing, you got to make your own.
Rogers' teammate Austin Collins, he's the lead lap salvaging whatever he can with some damage. But like to your point, he's pretty much up here. He's pushing to Brady Briggs. Gives him not quite the most square shot, but they're making a charge.
And Ben Izenga, Jeffrey Meyer have done a good job holding off that outside line so far. But at some point, the S2R guys in back are going to want to get up front.
Right here, yeah, Holloway, and he was clear of the outside lane. Although Meyer didn't go up there and pick up his draft. He's still tucked up right up behind Izenga as we're coming back to 10 laps to go this time.
Here comes William.
Lap truck.
William Wingfield. If he can drop back, he might be able to help his teammate of Marvin Wingfield. I don't think he's going to be able to stay with the draft, so Marvin Wingfield is still, he will be up here solo.
I'm getting butterflies in my stomach, and I'm just watching. You can imagine what these drivers are feeling right now.
Now we're riding on board with Richard Springer, who's he's just got a windshield full of trucks right now. You can see there's just nowhere to go. And, you know, Taylor, if you know that it doesn't take much to upset a truck if you push them too aggressively, do you see that maybe being a winning move here? You know, let's say Brady Briggs is trying to get past the 26 in the final lap. If he tries to push him going into 3 and 4 and knowing that it's going to upset that truck, it's almost like a bump and run. Do you think we'll see that tonight?
It's possible, but I mean, if Holloway starts to get out of shape, he's prepared to, well, first to dodge it and then to face the consequences.
Right.
This is getting wild up here. Izenga's still doing a great job of keeping this inside lane from dying out, and we got 9 laps to go this time.
And one thing I'm starting to notice is that inside line, there's a lot more movement before. Handling is becoming an issue here for these trucks. And when you're going speeds of north of 190 miles an hour, not that great, to be quite honest with you. You certainly want the most stable truck as you possibly can, but right now we're seeing, especially through that treacherous tri-oval, which is going to be the last place that these drivers can make a move before you start the cross. You know, you cross the start-finish line. We could definitely see some mayhem there. And if I was a little bit more confident, I'd almost call it as in the tri-oval being the place of any potential caution that we have coming forward.
I mean, yeah, it's the most difficult place on this racetrack, as Darrell Waltrip alludes to a lot. It's another turn, and there's only, I think, 18 degrees of banking around there, while these turns have 33 degrees.
Yeah, and as I mentioned it during our Bristol broadcast. I also mentioned it in the broadcast on Monday. The standard roof pitch that you see in North American homes is 26.1 degrees. That's what you see on a colonial home here in America. And these guys are driving at 33 degrees, so that's steeper than a roof.
Well, Holloway's clear to the bottom if he wants to go down there.
And right now, if you're near the front, if you're Ben Izenga, if you're Daniel Holloway, at this point, it's almost, you're deciding who's going to be pushing you. Who do you want behind you with few laps to go? Do you trust Brady Briggs? Do you trust Jeffrey Meyer? Do you trust anyone?
Do you even trust your own teammate? He decided not to drop down to the bottom.
And there is a very close-up shot of the chicken
Well, if you can recall Richard Childress back in the day, he said you don't have to necessarily help each other, but don't push someone else to the win to beat his other driver, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, that outside line, I mean, we've got 6 trucks on the inside. We've got 6 trucks on the outside. 5 laps to go here.
Well, Meyer, if he can, and he looked like he was ready to do it off turn 4, he's going to try to get a gap between he and Springer and push Izinga out there so he can jump in front of his teammate.
Well, one thing, if that front line loses a little bit of steam for a second, if Meyer can get out in front of his teammate, Holloway could end up pushing him to a win here. Not sure if we'll see that, of course. That's all hypothetical.
Oh, catching a couple lap trucks, but they survive it. Now is the point of no return, as we like to say in iRacing.
Well, if you're some of these trucks like the 9, like the 21, you've had the opportunity here to kind of sit back a little bit, keep that engine cool, and with about 3 laps to go, it's going to be, there's going to be no more looking at that engine gauge. There's going to be no more looking around. It's going to be just focus out the windshield.
Yeah, be basically either. Even if it blows up, I mean, nobody's going to be looking at that temperature with 2 or 3 to go.
Yeah, when do we see that third line form? That's another question. We have 5 to go. There's people like David Lindahl in the back, Sidarius Jackson. They want to get to the front. There's only one way there, and that is through that third line.
Holloway gets another good push from Briggs, but he just doesn't quite clear the inside of Izinga, Meyer, and Springer. He must really trust Brady Briggs pushing him right now. Although he's got it clear now. Oh, Meyer gave Izinga a little bit of a wrong bump.
And Brady Briggs
clear
clears.
those 2.
Now this opens the door for Jarrett Rogers, he's the first truck on the outside.
And he's got PJ O'Leary behind him, and Briggs didn't quite seal up the bottom.
Briggs!
He's going to get a bad bump draft.
An ill-timed block.
Caution is out. Who was the leader between Izinga and Holloway? I believe it was Holloway.
We're watching a replay here. Pay attention to your leaders. Brady Briggs comes up to block. We've seen it before. It didn't work the first time. It certainly didn't work the second time.
Well, based on what they're doing up here, it appears that Daniel Holloway was ahead of Ben Izinga, and he is going to get the win here at Talladega.
Matt Vanderkoy, 3rd. Bill Edwards, 4th right now. We're getting all this sorted out. We'll take a look at that actual caution one more time here. We're right on board with Richard Springer.
Oh, he got some contact, but he kind of pushed his way through, and he's going to get him, looks like a top 5.
And all the mayhem behind. It's not how you want to see a race finish, but it doesn't get any more dramatic than that. My goodness.
Well, congratulations to Daniel Holloway. It is official, as he is ahead of Ben Izinga as the pace car picks up the field. And after making it to the championship round last year, he too did not win a race last year, so this will be his first Dynasty Racing League Truck Series victory.
And Jeffrey Meyer, who spent all race trying to stay in the back.
He is currently scored in 12th position.
Yeah, trying to avoid this situation here that we're getting ready to watch right now. And he was so he was so close to getting out. And that was actually Bill Edwards we were on board with. My apologies. Bill Edwards did a great job of getting through that, though. We saw that.
And Meyer got caught on the right side door by Jarrett Rogers after they got together up at the top side. But man, Actually, it's saying it's like Trent Helt. He got pushed into the wall in that, but he's scored in third right now over Matt Vanderkoy and a few of these other drivers. But how about this, Getty? I mean, all three races this week, the caution comes out to decide the end, and it's a photo finish between who's ahead of who at the time of the caution flag.
And this is and not surprising, Talladega gives another driver its first DRL win here. Incredible driving. What we're going to do now, though, Taylor, we're going to prep for the post-race interviews. We are going to take a little bit of a break, and when we return, we will watch Daniel Holloway cross this line as our driver, as the winner of today's race, and we will get these interviews in with the top 3 drivers tonight. And then we will move on to post-race activities here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will return shortly as these drivers finish up the Talladega race here for the DRL Truck Series.
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Ray Alfala into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing
Race lead to the inside goes Logan Clapman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save.
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
I'm going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
I trying this contact though. Slide left to the racetrack. Chris Benner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe. Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the upset the Parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cutback here. Get the run out the Parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Makashube, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
And welcome back to the DRL Truck Series, finishing up pacing. This is the final lap here of the Talladega 200. Next week we will go to Dover, Delaware. Concrete surface all the way around, interesting pit road, interesting race in every single way. I believe this is the only race that has a gigantic concrete monster that sits outside of it. So, interesting race ahead of us next week. We saw the big one here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see the big one next week, too, at Dover. I guarantee it. Our next broadcast will be for the Cup guys at Dover. Our first time at Dover with that new aero package. And from what I've heard, going to be a whole different type of Dover race than we've ever seen before. Minimal braking. It's going to be just so weird. It's going to be great show, though. We know that much. But looking here at our unofficial results for this race, Daniel Holloway gets the win by a nose over Ben Izinga. Trent Helt, Richard Springer gets the finish that he needs. Matt Vanderkoy gets a great finish here. That'll be a good shot in the arm for him. Bill Edwards, Marvin Wingfield works his way back into the top 10. P.J. O'Leary, who is in need of a good run as well. David Lindahl, Thomas Harmon, they get the last spots there in the top 10. And then we look at these guys. Brady Briggs, Dakota Wilkins, Adam Purcell. These are the guys that were involved in that last incident. And unfortunately, we saw it end as we often see these restricted play races end, and that is under caution. Just an ill-timed block. We saw the block work once or twice. We also saw it not work once or twice. And right there, we saw Brady Briggs kind of go up and try to protect that line, which is what you have to do here to win, but it didn't work out. And Daniel Holloway will be scored as the winner. This is his first DRL Truck Series win, and Taylor, as you mentioned, our 6th different winner this season, and the parity here in the Truck Series just continues to surprise me and amaze me this season as Daniel Holloway gets the win here at Talladega.
certainly well deserved. Played the strategy right, the drafting lines right, and he's got to be one happy young man right now.
Yeah, and we had an interview with Daniel Holloway earlier this year, and he stressed how much he wants that first win. He just wants to get that in his back pocket and solidify his opportunity to race here in the playoffs. And as of right now, that is exactly what he has done. And it will be good to bring in Ben Izinga, Trent Helt here on a post-race interview here for DRL TV. But just can't say enough, man. These drivers put on a show. That last stint was absolutely incredible. 2x2x2 all the way around. We saw, Holloway leading that outside line. Basically got pushed to the lead by Brady Briggs, who ended up actually, bringing out that caution there at the end. So he played it right. He normally on that outside line, they can either stay outside when they clear the inside line, or they can, go inside. He chose to stay with Brady Briggs, and it ended up paying off here for Daniel Holloway.
Well, the champion from last year, Robbie Armstrong, comes up here to give him a congratulatory bump.
And look at Trent Helt. Crosses the finish line smoking.
Yeah, like we talked about, he didn't necessarily get through that last crash completely clean, but enough to keep the truck running for another couple laps under caution, and he gets himself a podium finish.
Yep, and let's bring in Trent Helt here.
My car move.
Hey Trent, this is Getty up in the DRL broadcast booth. Congratulations on the third place finish, although you do cross the start-finish line smoking, of course. But tell us about your race overall, and tell us how happy you are getting third.
I am beyond ecstatic right now. This is a good day.
Well, you didn't make it through that final wreck unscathed, but you did something that a lot of trucks weren't able to do, and that is keep it moving forward. So you didn't lose any spots. You come home third. This a huge boost in the points. We've seen you this season just not have the best of luck, or you've been involved in some wrecks. But does this, even though it is a restrictor plate race, does this do anything for your confidence as we move forward to tracks like Dover and Charlotte?
It's a huge help, and it's a lot of good practice with the guys from SGK, from Bad Boys, and obviously all the guys from S2R have been just really good helping me out the last few weeks, and that obviously has made things happen.
Well, Trent, while we have you up here, buddy, something that we always do, we let these drivers just give their shout-outs. Anything you want, anybody you want, sponsors, friends, buddies, you name it, man. The floor is yours.
Shout out to you guys, putting on a great broadcast. I can't wait to watch this later. Obviously, the guys I mentioned earlier, S2R, Fatal Concepts, Bad Boys, my brother Jake, who's in chat, Joe, who's probably doing something, I don't know. And Bill told me I needed to say hi to his mom, so hi, Bill's mom.
Hi, Bill's mom, and I know Bill's mom has watched about 1 million of my broadcasts. I'm sure she's about sick of hearing my voice already. But Trent, you do what you need to do tonight. You come home third. Congratulations, and hopefully we see you next week, and we can talk to you again as a top 3 finisher, buddy.
Thank you very much. I really hope to be back here soon. Awesome.
Well, we will see you at Dover in 1 week's time, my man, and we will get you back down with your teammate and bring your teammate, Ben Izinga, up here in the party. And that was Trent Helt finishing third. I'm sure that's exactly... I mean, if you don't get the win, I'm sure that's disappointing, but to be able to get out of that wreck and still finish third, that's absolutely amazing. Ben Izinga, do you have a copy, sir?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, last night the strategy didn't quite pay off for you. We saw in the Grand National race, but tonight in the truck race, you come home second, just barely though. How heartbreaking is it to finish second, but also, what's the mixture of heartbreak versus, feeling good about finishing second, even though you missed it by just half a truck length?
Yeah, well, you come into these races and you have like low expectations, like really, really, really low expectations. So I'm happy with the second. I hate that it was that close, but it's just.
Well, we don't get to see you too often up here in the Truck Series, but you come out here and you're able to help your teammates. If you could do it all over again, would you do anything different?
No, I'm pretty happy with all the moves I made. I wish the caution came out a little bit later because I think I would have had him, but that's just the way it goes, like I said.
Awesome. Well, Ben, give us your shout-outs if you have any here, bud.
Yeah, I got to thank you guys for broadcasting. Got to thank DRL as a whole, all the guys who work to run this league. They do a great job. Everyone out here racing, they race really clean, really great. Got to thank Bill and Fatal Concepts for painting my entire team's awesome trucks. And Bill says hi to his mom. I think.
Yep. Hi, Mrs. Edwards.
Yeah. Okay, Bill's mom, we get it. That's the second shout out that she's gotten. No, it's great to see you up here in the Truck Series. Looking forward, is there another Truck Series race that you see on the schedule that maybe that'll be the next time we see you, or is this kind of going to be your one-time thing?
I should be out at Pocono and Eldora, and I don't think I can run Mosport, but I'm going to be helping my teammates out there.
Yeah, Mosport actually, Ben, that was that's where you got your first DRL win, was at Mosport last year. So, Ben, it's been a pleasure to watch you race here. Congratulations on your second, and we'll see you when we see you here up in the Truck Series, and of course we'll see you next Tuesday at Dover in the Grand National Series.
Thank you.
That was Ben Izinga finishing second, and we'll get him back down with his teammate. And now we get to bring in the man of the hour, Daniel Holloway. All right, well, that was a good interview. All right, we'll see you later, buddy. Anyway, moving on. Oh, I guess we'll interview him. Dan, you finally get that win. We talked to you earlier this year, and that's what you wanted. You want to get that win. You want to get the monkey off your back. You've been part of the DRL series for about a year now. What does this mean for you? And how close was it in your mind? Like, were you sweating it when that caution came out that you actually didn't have the lead?
Oh my gosh, I sweated when that caution came out, and I thought for sure Ben was in front of me, but iRacing said it was me, and I was like, oh yes, oh yes.
Well,
trust me, I know that feeling.
I mean, you get the win, you get that guaranteed playoff spot. I mean, if anyone has followed DRL at all, we know last year you were about 20 laps away from being the Dynasty Racing League Cup champion, or truck champion rather. And then you were involved with an altercation with a lap down car, so you could be our defending champion, but it didn't quite work out. But here you finally get that first win. What does this do for you, knowing that you are in the playoffs as it stands right now?
Feels great, especially just in DRL, just get the first win. That's awesome. I mean, a 34 truck field tonight, 35. That's a big, huge field, and doing that. Yeah, big relief, but not gonna settle for just one. I think maybe two in this series. You might be locked in pretty good. So, because there's still a lot of good drivers, still a lot of season left in here before the playoff starts. So, but still got to keep going at it. But big relief as of right now.
Well, we've seen your luck the last couple of weeks. It just hasn't been great. You've been caught up in a lot of wrecks. But as you finally get this win, and then we move forward to Dover and some of these other tracks going forward, when do you expect that we'll see that next win here, bud?
I love Dover. I think last season, I think when Wade and Ryan, I think they were 1-2, and I came in third. I think if it wasn't for those two, I think I would have had that first win last year. So good track. Love it. There's some tracks coming up too, but it's all about consistency and getting those good top 10 finish at least, or top 15, and try to stay out of trouble. Hopefully this year, good momentum. And I'll say it again. This field here in this truck series, it's tough. You got a lot of good drivers in here.
Well, Daniel Holloway, I can say this now: you are a Dynasty Racing League race winner, and like I said, as it stands right now, unless we get more than 12 race winners, you are in the playoffs. While we have you, as the first time being a race winner here, why don't you give us your shout outs, buddy?
Yes, I want to thank James for this league, and few others here. You guys in the broadcast, Getty, Taylor, you guys do one heck of a show as far as putting it on. I'd like to thank the bad boys. You know, got to watch out for those chickens, I'm saying. Big shout out to S2R. You know, we were, you know, helping each other tonight, and you know, couldn't ask for a great finish right there at the end with those guys. You know, family members. Sarah, I know she's watching. I'd like to thank her watching, and I do want to have a big shout out tonight. It's my son's birthday too, 10 years old. I know he does watch it and stuff, so he'll get a nice good kick out of this one too.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, happy birthday, Dan's son. I thought you were going to be the third person to say hi to Bill's mom, but not today. That's good. Congratulations on your race win, Dan. We'll see you next week at Dover, and maybe you can put some back-to-back wins together. That would be, I'd say that's probably pretty incredible. But
yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the time and enjoy your race win. We'll see you here next week.
Yep. See you guys next week. Looking forward to it.
Well, that was Daniel Holloway, our race winner. Taylor, what a race. We had a great race here tonight. Talladega was exactly what Talladega was. Close racing, followed by big wrecks, followed by close racing, followed by big wreck, followed by close racing.
It certainly did not disappoint, and of course Talladega never disappoints. And as Holloway, he finally got that first win, and like you said, if it wasn't for non-points guys last year, he could have gotten it at Dover last year. So he might make it 2 in a row next week.
Yeah, he certainly could. And we've got a lot of guys here that are good at Dover. I know Richard Springer is going to be good at Dover. Daniel Holloway, Jeffrey Meyer. The field this year is much different than it was last year. Now let's look at the points standings as it was when we started the race. And I've got them here. And I know I do this, and it's weird, but whatever. Here's the point standings as they stand now. Casey Drake falls back a few points, but Dakota Wilkins, Jeremy Hebel switch spots there. PJ O'Leary up to 4th after having a couple rough weeks. David Lindahl up to 6th. Robbie Armstrong, his rough luck continues as he had that good run at Bristol, but other than that, he's kind of had a rough season here trying to defend that Cup, that Truck Series championship that he's had. We see a lot of movement between 3rd and 12th, and you can see the intervals between the drivers. It's very, very possible that we have that same thing next week as far as all the movement. Taylor, we speak about it every week. The parity here in this Truck Series is absolutely outstanding. But before we sign off here, I just want to remind everyone next week is Dover. And, Taylor, give us any closing statements that you have here, bud.
Well, just, again, so impressed with the parity of this Truck Series. The 6 different winner as far as points guys. And Holloway, if he can make it 2 in a row next week, I would think assure him a spot. But like he said, there's potential for maybe even having more than 12 winners, and that would be something to have it come down to that. But again, congrats to Daniel and a great race overall.
Yep, I echo exactly what you said there, Taylor. The parity and the fact that we could, the top 12 drivers are locked in for playoffs, and we could have more than 12. Who knows? I mean, we've got 2 more restrictor plate races, and we've got a big variety of racetracks coming up. We've got Dover, which is a mile, and then we've got some 1.5 miles, and then we have some road course races, and then we have some more short tracks. I mean, there's going to be a lot of
race.
Yeah, we even have a dirt race. There's going to be so many different tracks. We know different drivers are good at different tracks. And it seems like every week there's just a new favorite to win. So Daniel Holloway is the latest person to get that win, that monkey off his back. And, Talladega just continues to do Talladega. I guess that's the best way I can say it. But for DRL TV, my name is Getty Buckner. It has been a pleasure. I'm always alongside Taylor Butcher Benjamin. And we will see you here next week. Again, if you like the broadcast, make sure that you hit the like, subscribe button, and you will be notified when we go live, which will, again, be next Monday for the Cup Series at Dover. And I guess there's really nothing else to say here, man. Just an incredible race, and we'll see everyone next week. We hope that you enjoyed it. And Taylor, always a pleasure, buddy. Always a pleasure working with you. And it's I wouldn't have it any other way, that's for sure. But for the DRL TV, for DRL Truck Series, my name is Getty Buckner. We will be signing off, and we'll see you next week at Dover.